We go. So, welcome everybody to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and ghost story and Mike Ricksecker. With me as always is Vanessa Hogle, who's causing all kinds of trouble over there. We do not have our chat Shananigator Shana with us this evening. She has had to work until 9 p.m. Central. She will be around for Beyond the Shadows later, but we're missing her for Edge of the Rabbit Hole, so behave down there in the chat room. Trusting you guys. We'll see. I know they're going to just go crazy, but yeah, it's going to happen. But tonight we have a very special guest with us this evening. Just met her, I guess it was about a month ago in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Brandy Green of Ghost Hunters International was there at one of Kelly McCarville's events and had the pleasure of meeting her and getting a chance to speak with her. Was on a panel together. Learned about a number of her adventures. Of course, used to watch the show a little bit back in the day too, and learn about all of her travels. So tonight we're going to get into all of those travels, adventures, the paranormal activity that she experienced, her viewpoints on the paranormal. So Brandy, welcome. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate having you here. And if real quick, we actually have a $5 super chat from Trucker David Wise. Says, hello, guys. It's been a while. Love the shows. Thank you, David.
Hey, David.
So, Brandy, I guess, we'll do, the way we always have to start these type of shows. And, the obligatory question of how you actually got into the paranormal, what got you started on the path, and then we'll get a little more creative with the questions. But what got you started here?
Okay, well, it's sort of a long story, so I'll try to shorten it.
All right.
My mom was always very into the paranormal. She came from a big family. They grew up playing the Ouija board and all that kind of stuff. My dad, total skeptic, doesn't believe in any of it. And I guess I kind of grew up in between that, wondering, does this stuff really exist or not? And I have to say, I am quite the skeptic. But I ended up forming my own team based out of the Twin Cities when I was really young. And I did that before I did the show. And I just sort of started from the ground up before all of these big ghost shows were what they are now, I guess. They're, you turn on any station and there's 10 ghost shows.
Right.
So.
And there's more coming.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the time of kind of trial and error, not so much emulation of what you see on TV. We didn't have that back then. So, that's kind of how I started.
Fantastic. And then how did you end up on Ghost Hunters International?
Well, I was working a normal job that was absolutely depressing. No windows, cubicle, fluorescent lighting, worked in debt recoveries. I was 23. I finally had a grown-up job with a 401k and benefits and all of that.
Right.
And I knew Barry Fitzgerald, who was on GH and GHI. And the show GHI, Ghost Hunters International, had just started. And I was maybe 3 weeks into this job, and he called me while I was at work, and he said, look, we just lost 3 cast members. We're 6 episodes into the first season of the show, and we need someone. Are you interested? And I said no.
What?
No. I was not interested at all. Didn't want to be on TV, none of it. And he kept, Barry's very persistent, if you know him. And finally, I was like, fine, I'll send in an audition tape. They're never going to pick me. The next day, I got a call from Rob Katz, the executive producer from LA, saying, hey, the job is yours. If you want it, 2 weeks to get a passport, quit your job, come overseas. And so I did. I was 23 and I just started traveling the world.
See, now that's all I'm asking, Brandy. I don't care about being on camera. Just pay me to travel.
Right?
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I'm damn good at what I do. Just pay me to travel. I'm so sick of fixing teeth.
Yeah,
Right?
I,
21 years fixing teeth.
yeah, no, thank you.
That's not fun. That's not fun.
Yeah, call me.
So I have to throw this out there. So you're on the season for 4 seasons, if I recall correctly. And I remember that because of the statement that you made. And so I have to ask you about people getting possessed, because you became my new best friend there in Cedar Rapids when you made the statement that, 4 years, 60 countries, was it however many continents, or was it, wait a second, was it 40 countries and 6 continents, or whatever it was that...
Got it right.
Yeah. You had not gotten possessed once, let alone twice in one episode. And it was like, I like this girl.
Okay. I'm just going to go right ahead right now and just big kiss right through the screen, okay? Because,
but you saw some interesting things along the way.
Yes. Look, I'm not a physicist. I'm not an expert in anything. I have a lot of knowledge in many different realms. But yeah, I've had some really weird experiences that I still can't explain. Just because I can't explain them doesn't mean the natural progression of things is just to call it paranormal. I could go on and on about different stories, but so I did 40 countries, 6 continents, and I did 2 seasons, but it took
2 seasons,
4 years. It took 4 years to film 2 seasons of that show. Back then, a season was 23 episodes, unlike now, which they're 8 to 13, maybe if you're lucky. So definitely a lot of weird things happening that I still scratch my head about and kind of frustrate me because I haven't been able to figure them out.
But okay, so we're hopping into my area now. I totally understand what you're talking about. I really do. And that there are just some things that happen that there is no way to explain them, factual or otherwise. There just isn't a logical explanation. What I would like to know is, did any of those particular instances cause you to not have proof, but in your heart or in your soul believe that you were actually communicating with the spirit?
I wish I could say yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I have to say, I think I became more of a skeptic, actually, during my time overseas. During my time in the paranormal kind of in general, again, before I did the show, I was doing the typical residential cases, small business cases based out of the Twin Cities. So I've done it on many different levels in many different ways, and I've just never had anything that really shocked me to my core. I wish I could say that I have, and maybe I will one day. Mm-hmm. But as of right now, I'm still a skeptic.
But there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
And it's balance. I mean, I have experiences that, where I've been able to give information. There's absolutely no way for me to know. No way. It's no way. And yet I can give it. I know that's communication. But I'm also skeptic enough to know that sometimes there very well could be a reason for that.
Right.
I actually admire you for saying exactly what you just did.
Well, thank you.
Most people would get up here and be like, Lord, you're not going to believe what I saw, and but the fact that you've did it for 2 years, we've had those. Hello. But the fact that you've done it, that you did it for 2 years, it was on for 4, and you still retain a very ethical outlook on it. I see it as ethical, not cynical.
Right.
I applaud you. Most people wouldn't do that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, most people that even watch the show are shocked to find that I'm a skeptic. And it's like, did you watch the show? Because I'm pretty sure I've never claimed a location was haunted.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely strange experiences, but I've never, ever said, look, there's a ghost, you know, like it's never happened. So, surprise, I'm a skeptic.
Yeah, which is, it's interesting. And I have to throw out there real quick. So Tom McNicholas, $5 super chat. Vanessa, he says, could be worse. Vanessa, you could have worked for a proctologist.
Actually,
thank you, Tom.
People fear the dentist so much more than they fear the proctologist or the gynecologist. True story. We hear every single day how much we're hated.
Can I just say I don't hate dentists? I am just absolutely I have like such an ingrained fear. I think it's the drill sound and like that feeling.
Your fear is actually very logical. The fear from dentistry stems from the fact that you are awake, you can see us, but you can't see what we're doing.
It's happening, yeah.
Right.
Yes, it almost borders along the line of claustrophobia because it affects your breathing, it affects your heart rate, it affects your sight, it affects all of these major senses, and you don't know quite how to deal with it. So it makes total sense. We just get tired of hearing that they hate us.
Well, I don't hate you guys. It's all good, at least for me. But you terrify poor Brandy over here, you know.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not afraid of ghosts, but dentists.
You're not afraid of ghosts, but dentists, yeah. Dentists are a whole nother level. But yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things about you, Brandy, is that, you know, through it all, you've stayed very grounded. You traveled all over the world to some locations that are supposed to be extremely, extremely haunted. And I mean, a lot of people are going to be envious of that, but yet through it all, you stayed very grounded, even and I think, if I recall correctly, what you said when we were on that panel together was that it was actually more of like the real world that was scaring you at some of these locations.
Absolutely, 100%. And, you know, we went to a lot of like third world countries, you know, and I mean, we went to the favelas in Brazil, and, you know, we have a convoy of 7 vehicles filled with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and we were the Hollywood actors, you know, to them, you know, and we're driving through these really narrow streets, and you look up and you see 12-year-olds standing on rooftops holding AK-47 at your convoy, just following you in their sights. You know, and we had to make a deal with the godfather of the favela to not kill us. You know, we had to pay him like $2,000 under the table. You know, I mean, it definitely, the real world to me is a lot scarier.
But it really is. I mean, in most cases, and we've said this so many times on this show and on others, is that, you know, what I do, Mike does something a little bit different, but what I do with spirit communication, I'm not out there seeking out the nastiest energy. I'm not out there trying to prove anything to anybody. I don't give a shit if you believe me or not. More power to you. I don't care. They don't scare me. It's what people drum up or what they incite by searching for the big thing, as opposed to dealing with or interacting with or helping others that are left behind that they deem not as important.
Right.
That scares me. Mm-hmm. I've been in bad situations, really bad situations, where it's been that has really, really put the fear in me. A dead person, they don't scare me at all. No.
So we have a couple questions coming in from down the chat room, so we'll get to a couple of these here from.
I can't read it, Mike. I'm sorry.
Well, you blast the broadcast right into the microphone, so I'm going to give you a hard time about that now. So this from I got it. Okay, I see how it is. Where's that mute button again? Oh, I can't mute the finger. So this is from B3 Airspace. Did Brandy close herself off to any experience in which she was afraid? So I guess, was there an experience that may have happened that may have frightened you that you just closed yourself off to?
No, no, absolutely not. And, like I said, and actually it's interesting because my mom, who is this believer, my grandfather, her father, died about 4 years ago, and she had been asking him, please, if there's something out there, just send me a sign that you're still here with me. And nothing ever happened. And she was really disappointed. She was so open. But just never happened for her until recently. She had an experience that she was very excited about. But I find that that's me too. I never set out saying, I refuse to believe. It's never, and maybe if it did, I wouldn't even recognize it because I'd be too busy trying to sort through the possibilities of, what else could it be? How do I debunk this?
Right.
And that's just how my brain works.
Yeah, I think obviously you're kind of open to it if you were, investigating even prior to the show. So you were, trying to seek out some sort of answers, I would think.
It's funny, my old team members used to say, the day you see Brandy running out of a location is the day she sees the devil himself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I think that's probably pretty accurate. If I saw a full-bodied apparition or someone levitating in front of my eyes, then I'd be like, all right, yep.
That'll do it for you.
Until then,
Right.
It's not as fun as it sounds.
Well, neither, I'm assuming is, being possessed, I guess. I mean, I know that's a moneymaker, though.
Yeah. Especially twice an episode.
It's a sick one. It's a sick moneymaker.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the. Let's ask your opinion on this. So it seems like a lot of the shows these days, and it's going to be hard to keep up with them now. The Travel Channel is having a billion shows, in some way, shape, or form related to the paranormal, supernatural. But it seems like a lot of the shows, at least in recent years, had gone down the demon route, where every episode there was a demon, or somebody was getting possessed, or something like that. So so what's your take on the current state of paranormal television?
Well, I think the problem is, back when Ghost Hunters was running, and then you had GHI that soon followed. They were sort of the only two big shows until Ghost Adventures came out. But when they were kind of running the gambit, they didn't need to fight for ratings like all these shows are. Now there's so much competition that one show has to outdo the other show. And the only way to do that is to keep your viewing audience entertained. And unfortunately, we live in a world that, with Instagram and these 10-second video clips, and people's minds are moving at such a fast rate nowadays that they have to be constantly and instantly excited and entertained all the time. They're not going to want to watch what a real investigation looks like what we used to do.
Right.
Granted, it was edited down, but there were some episodes that were really boring. That's what investigating is.
Well, yeah, if you watch the very first episode of Ghost Hunters, there was only like 2 episodes in which they actually said, yeah, we think this place might be haunted. Every other place, they were saying, no, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. So, and so, yeah, I believe you're right. It's kind of ramping up. And now everything has to be a demon. So what do you do after everything's a demon? Where do you go from there?
Get some celebrity guests and get them possessed. Get
the celebrities possessed.
Get Ernie Hudson on
there you go.
And get possessed. I mean, what?
Nice.
No, I think that here's what happens. This is from my perspective of things, that every few years the ebb and flow shifts. So for a while it's UFOs, and then for a while it's Bigfoot, and then for a while it's ghosts. And these shows have a shelf life. I mean, there are a handful that outdo themselves. Ghost Adventures we can joke about it all we want, but look, I mean, they're in season 452. I don't even know. They've been
They've been around a while. Yeah.
You know, Ghost Hunters, they did what, 11 years, something like that, and now they're back. But all these other shows, you know, they're going to get maybe 3-4 seasons and be done, and then it's on to the next. That's how this business is, the TV ghost business.
So that's why we specifically didn't even ever try to go down that route, Gwen and I, with what we're doing. We're going straight to Amazon Prime.
Well, and that's the thing too, when you're fighting with a network, it's no longer your idea.
Exactly right. Right there.
And anyone that's ever fought for a show knows exactly the trials and tribulations that I'm talking about. Streaming, honestly, is where it's at.
Oh, yeah.
You have so much more freedom.
We made a promise to the people we interviewed. We made a promise that they would be represented correctly. I'm not going to jeopardize that. I won't do it.
No, and that's rare. That's super rare in the TV biz. I mean, it's very frustrating. I've worked, you know, off camera, not being a part of show. I've worked on camera. I've worked as a producer for a ghost show, Haunted Towns, first season. I was out in the field with those guys, and it was such a struggle for me. It was such a struggle. And unfortunately, I was in a position that I really had no say in how things went. But it's tough. It's really tough.
I think you're right when you say that streaming is the way to go, because really in this business, aside from jokes and some really great memes, the only thing that you have with longevity is your reputation and your integrity.
I had that conversation with an individual that I won't name, who's on a ghost show now, and he was never a paranormal investigator. He just got wrapped up with these individuals and decided, okay, I'll do this too. And like, you have to make a decision. This is either like an acting gig for you, that you're just doing this until the show is done and then you move on to the next thing, or you're going to stay in the paranormal. And how you are portrayed on camera is going to stay with you off camera. So you have to figure your stuff out.
Absolutely.
You didn't take my advice.
So let me ask you this. And I know, guys, we do have some questions down in the chat room. We'll get to those in a little bit. But let me ask you this. Having both perspectives, being in front of the camera, being behind the camera, and, you know, I have from the people I talk to, there's a perspective of, you know, people say, well, all these people on these shows are actors, and I know that's not true, but some of them are. So how does that play into how the shows, you know, are actually produced, where you have this mix of some people who have been investigating, like you were an investigator, and some people who really just coming from an acting background?
I will say I have a lot of friends that are actors who are actually really well-known actors that are super paranormal. They're super into it. And they've been begging me to take them on investigations, and they want to learn how to do it. So I can't necessarily naysay just because they're actors, they can't investigate. There are some legitimately great people that are honestly into it. On the other hand, it's a lot easier to direct someone that knows how to be directed rather than just some random person that knows how to investigate. And that, I think, is what differentiates the show I was on versus a lot of the shows on today.
So there is some directing on these shows.
A lot of the shows on today, including the one that I was a producer on, it's all directing or self-directing. They know what they need to get the shot, and they do it, and then they're done. The show I was on was so different because we were investigators that had a camera crew that followed us around, documenting us trying to document the paranormal. So we were investigators. That's what we did. if they needed a creative angle, then that was on them to figure out how they were going to do it with as little impact to us as possible.
That's
so,
the way it should be.
One would think.
That's the way it should be. You know, I don't know where we got off course with it. I mean, I know, like we've talked about, people have to be entertained, but I have to believe, I have to be able to sleep at night knowing that there is some level of intelligence and comprehension in the world as to what's going on. I have to, you know, or else it's just going to keep going in my head. And
I think the big issue, I think, was the popularity of these shows, and then more shows were made. And again, going back to the competition situation, you know, where we have to be better than Ghost Hunters. We have to be better than Ghost Hunters International or Ghost Adventures. What are they doing? How can we make that better? All of that kind of stuff. And I think that that's where we really, really just lost it.
Well, and not just with the competition between the active shows on television right now, but that competition has bled into the paranormal field between investigators and teams.
Absolutely.
And everybody's searching to be the next big thing. Don't search to be the next big thing. Search to do good work.
Well, and that also goes to, and Mike, when we did the panel at Cedar Rapids, I think we talked a little bit about this too, but the fact that most teams nowadays, unless they predate the shows, most teams just simply emulate what they see other shows doing. And unfortunately, most of these shows, including the one I produced, they don't know what they're doing. They need producers to show them how to use their own equipment. So if you're having these new teams that are looking to these TV personalities, you know, to learn from, good luck, because it's not going to happen. You know, do your own research. Open a book. I know they're scary. They're paper. You know, they open up.
We write them. We know.
Yeah, we write. So or you know, when somebody asks for advice in the paranormal, somebody new looking to get into it, you know, I always tell them, you know, try to find a reputable team in your area that's been doing this, you know, 20 years, 25 years, what have you, that, you know, predates the shows, because a lot of these people they see what's on television. They're like, oh, I can walk around with some, you know, device and, you know, that's it. They think that's all it is. Yeah. And antagonize somebody's deceased grandmother, which is lovely. But I have to tell you, Brandy, I'm one of those people, unfortunately. I don't know how to use the equipment, because I am the equipment for the team.
Right, and everyone has their own approaches. It's the people, though, that buy $5,000 worth in these ridiculous, like 3D printed new pieces of crap that breaks the first time you take it out. You know, because their favorite ghost hunter uses it on whatever show. Right. And it's like, seriously.
What was your favorite piece of equipment? Yeah, what was your favorite piece of equipment?
I always stuck with the basics. Mm-hmm. A natural tri-field meter, the old box that you buy from like Home Depot, like not the super crazy looking steampunk gothic looking stuff. Just a natural tri-field meter, my Edirol audio recorder, and a camera. I had a multi-spectrum camera. That was great. Video and still pictures right there in one. That's it. You know, everyone focuses too on just using one piece of equipment because it's easier to move around with. Well, what happens when that one piece of equipment fails? When it has to be recalibrated, like the Mel meter all the time. Right. You know, then you're screwed because you have nothing. So I always say, don't put all your eggs in one basket in terms of equipment. Have multiple devices that you know how to use, that you can kind of cross-reference. So if you get a hit on something, you can check the audio, or you can check something else to verify that indeed did happen. But that's just me going off on a tangent and all these ridiculous new devices that are really the same old devices, just with different covers on them.
Yeah.
We like tangents. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. And I totally agree. You know, keep it old school, stay with the basics, because there's, I mean, and I appreciate somebody trying to, you know, develop something new, but there's 1,000 different things out there with all kinds of bells and whistles that actually really don't do much of anything, in my personal opinion. But I do want to get to some of these questions down here in the chat room. You guys have had a bunch coming in. So it's from Kaylee CC. Brandy, are you a full-on skeptic? Do you believe in psi phenomena like telepathy, remote viewing, and precognitive dreams at all?
So I'm actually really super interested in the remote viewing thing. I've always wanted to try it. Well, see, we need to figure this out. We need to
talk. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's what Vanessa does. Yeah,
that's my specialty.
But those types of things I'm very interested in. I can't say whether or not I believe in them, just because I've never really focused my attention on it to know how I feel about it. But I'm open to learning about more than I know now. So
yeah, so you're a skeptic, but you're open to the realm of possibility.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good. Brandy, after this, I'm going to message you real quick on Facebook and just give you a couple of little things to try. I went over it in my last book, and it just kind of shows you how you can start to teach yourself different ways to do that.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, by all means, please contact me anytime. But it's really simple exercises. And if you show that you have an adaptation to it, or that you have any skill in it whatsoever, you can actually build on that skill. And it's quite an interesting thing to do. It really is. So I got you. Go, Mike.
Cool. This is from Murtaza Arif. Have you explored haunted locations in central London, UK?
Yeah, well, we did a number of locations throughout the UK. I'm sorry, my brain is just not coming up with any specifics. We did Nottingham, the Galleries of Justice, and a few other locations in England. That was quite a while ago. Nottingham was really cool, but we were looking. This was a situation that I was not happy about, and I was never a diva on the road at all. But that particular episode, the Robin Hood episode, I was pissed the entire time. They wanted us to look for the ghost of Robin Hood, which is just a legend, by the way. Robin Hood, the character, was derived from like 5 different individuals from that time period. And I was just so like, is this happening right now? But the location was cool.
So that was the producers of the show that were trying to get you to do that?
Yeah, that was one of those that we had to sort of redirect them. Like, you need to remember what the show is about. You know, because I was like, what's next? We're going to look for Santa Claus in the North Pole? Like, this is ridiculous. But it was a cool place. Very historical. I got to sit in an oubliette for like 4 hours with black mold on the wall. So that was really fun.
Oh, wow. That could not have smelled very good. And it was probably terrible for your lungs to boot. So now I could see something maybe along the lines of your maybe researching the origins of the legends of Robin Hood and maybe incorporating that into it. But yeah, they actually.
Right. No, we were investigating. I remember Barry and I were investigating, and the director actually said, "Hey, you guys, can you ask an EVP question directed at Robin Hood?" And both Barry and I, in unison, looked at the producer, and we were just like, "Shut up."
Wow.
It's just a little bit of research, just a little.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, one of the teams I've worked with out of Sheffield has been to Little John's grave. There was actually the grave of Little John, but because that was an actual person, from my understanding. But you're absolutely correct on the Robin Hood. But that's the one thing that I've noticed in many shows. different ones that Douche Baggins did over there in Hellfire Caves. And I'm sorry, it's okay to laugh, but when they're with Hellfire Caves, they didn't do any proper research. I've been there. He didn't know dick from a hole in the ground, what that place was actually used for, what the River Styx was, and the inner chamber it went to. And they just fed a bunch of lies.
That seems to be par for the course.
It's frustrating.
So we do have a $10 super chat from Kaylee CC. She says, much love to all. A positive note, web shows like BuzzFeed Unsolved are big now. Great research rather than scares, which is nice. Cool.
Yes. Bless her.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that. To me, they go a little bit too much on a tangent, but Brandy's tangents are a little bit better, in my opinion.
I like Brandy's tangents.
Yeah. So a couple other questions that we have here. The Real Housewife of Ghost Hunting. Brandy, what was your scariest investigation ever?
Well, paranormal-wise, there were some that did creep me out. We had one that was in Costa Rica, San Lucas Island Prison. It was basically Costa Rica's version of Alcatraz. And the island prison actually was just absolutely horrendous stuff went on there. They had inmates that had escaped. They were murdering each other. They had murdered a nurse, dismembered her, and then raped her, and then drew on the walls with her blood. And I was doing an EVP session in the room that she had been found, and the audio that I picked up, that this is one of them that I still can't explain. It sounds like a female voice saying, "Help me." Okay. So that was definitely, I can't, I don't know if it was just simply the history alone of the location, and it's just out there. It's literally this island off the coast of Punta Arenas, Costa Rica, and they have howler monkeys that sound like T-Rex when you're boating in.
Wow.
You're really out there in the jungle. In terms of real life scare kind of stuff, again, the favelas, Philippines had some scary situations. Accidentally went into Russia one time.
Oops.
Yeah, that was an oops, yeah, for sure. I had plenty of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's I remember some of the details of the Costa Rica story from when I met you before, and that's that's just gruesome. Judy Wilson asks, as a follow up to that story, do you think the woman is stuck in a loop of what happened to her there? So I guess asking if that might be a residual haunt.
Assuming that what I picked up was actually her voice, it's possible. I would hope that it's just simply energy, if anything, just blanketed energy with no cognitive ability to it at all. Because
like an imprint.
Yeah, I mean, how horrifying would it be to be stuck in that moment forever of that pain? But who's to say? I just don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just kind of speculation.
Right.
Yeah. So,
it's always speculation. I mean, we can always come up with stuff, that can be verified. But even then, you can't say 100%. You just can't.
True.
That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah.
You just don't know. You got to be okay with saying that.
Yep. From Brandy Starleaper, whose birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, Brandy Starleaper.
Happy early birthday.
So kind of piggybacking on the scariest location, what was the favorite location?
Ooh, that's tough. I really enjoyed the Wolf's Lair in Poland. That's where Operation Valkyrie happened.
Yeah.
Really weird place. Like, that's where Hitler had his headquarters towards the end of the war. and he had blown up all the bunkers. You go in, and there's a handful of bunkers that are still in one piece. They had created a hostel that you can vacation at inside of this location out of one of them. And we actually were there. It wasn't planned for us to be there specifically on Hitler's birthday, but that's just how it happened. And they actually light a candle for Hitler still, like in memory of him. It's a very strange place, especially when you're traveling with a crew that's like 90% Jewish.
Yeah, that's a little odd. And even,
Wow.
I mean, that's in Poland, but they invaded Poland. They were not very nice to the Poles. So that's kind of odd that they're lighting a candle for him.
It's very odd. It's a very, very strange place, but definitely interesting. And I mean, he had his own railway, his own air landing strip, all of that. It was a very, very strange place, especially when you're crawling through these exploded bunkers in the middle of the night with rebar sticking up everywhere. You could easily kill yourself there. Oh, and unexploded landmines. We were told, just be careful. Don't go beyond the fenced-in perimeter, because we tried to get all of the landmines, but there might still be a few. So, you're in the dark, wandering around, hoping you don't get killed by...
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you, simply because I just got back from there. You said you'd been to Ireland, correct?
Right.
What was your favorite place in Ireland?
So I really preferred Northern Ireland to the Republic of, and
Really?
I really liked Rothland Island, which is off the coast what is it? Ballintoy, Ballycastle, way up there, County Antrim. It's like a couple miles off the coast.
It's northwest.
Yeah, and it's northeast, and it's very, very close to the Mull of Kintyre of Scotland.
Oh, no, you're right.
Right, Scotland, yeah. Okay. I probably could have swam if, I really wanted to. But it was just great, and it was like the stereotypical Irish town. They speak Gaelic, and it's very off the beaten path, and they are nice to you, but you can tell that they're like, yeah, you're a tourist. Like, you don't get it. No, you want to get it, but you don't get it, kind of thing. And there was this man, he was an older man. He was at the pub at 6 a.m. and he was at the pub the next morning at 4 a.m. The guy slept on his bar stool.
Wow.
So stereotypical. But yeah, I always like those off the beaten track and not so touristy areas, for sure.
We got to go into the Cave of the Cats.
I've never been. No.
Cave of the Morgan. I highly recommend it. If you're willing to get dirty. If you're willing to get really, really, really dirty. But that is, I know exactly what you're talking about, because just to the west of that, a little ways, I don't know, maybe 100 kilometers or so, I believe, is Giant's Causeway.
Yes.
And then Dunluce Castle, which is just amazing. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I love it. I want to move there.
So this question is from William Bennett. In your travels, Brandy, of locations, did you ever meet and get advice from local occult or paranormal groups before filming the location?
We had a few off-camera sort of interviews. One was done in Brazil, actually up in the favelas at the cultural center. We had this woman who came in, and she was a local, basically a local witch for all intents and purposes, and she did a number of incantations and stuff before we actually started investigating. Really sweet lady, and it was so refreshing for me anyway. I mean, I studied cultural anthropology and the psychology of death and dying and all of that. So for me, it was really interesting to see how that culture handled the paranormal, not just how we from predominantly America handle the paranormal. Because that's what that show should have been about, really. We should have been incorporating the locals more than what they wanted to.
Yeah, because each culture has their own take on what the paranormal is, their supernatural legends and things like that. Yeah.
And when we were in Jamaica, actually, it was at the hotel. We were not filming. We had just gotten back from filming, and we were ready to just crash. And there was this man who came through the lobby, and he was an opium master. And he gave some of us readings. Very nice man, but very just, he was different. The vibe from him was just very sort of otherworldly. I don't really know how to explain it.
That's awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
my kind of people.
yeah. Now that it sounds like there were some situations that you were put into around the world that were a little dicey,
to say the least. Yes.
Let's see. Judy Wilson's asking if you met any of the wee folks.
I'm assuming she's referring to like the Fae and things like that in Ireland.
Do you believe in those type of? I mean, of course, there's so many legends and lore that it's hard, at least for me.
I mean, I personally don't. Barry Fitzgerald is full-on believer in the Fae, the Banshee, all of that. When we were in Ireland, he just, like, he was in his prime.
Right. He was probably having a good old time over there.
I'm shutting up.
You're shutting up. Well, see, and that's actually something that's an interest of mine, just because of something that I observed here in Illinois. That if there are fairies, that this could possibly be, and trying to do some research on it, you always end up all the folklore and legends and people writing books on like this whole hierarchy on, a social structure that it's like, did you sit down with a fairy and ask what your social structure is? I don't, so to me, it's hard to kind of really dig into that type of research. So,
no, I mean, I find it fascinating. Again, it's just not necessarily my primary focus.
Right.
I've had a little, experience just because of Barry, but that's about it.
Okay.
Hey, I will say this because you have to pass this on to him because he will love it. We got lucky enough to have an impromptu day out with somebody that was acting as our private driver, who shared with us without being prompted on camera. We've got the whole thing, 3 full-blown experiences that span almost a 50-year period of something very specific to Ireland, eyewitness accounts, and he can give dates and everything that followed with them.
Cool.
It's one of the things that you said that Barry is all interested in. I'm not going to say it on here.
He gets so like giddy. He gets giddy like a 12-year-old at like one of those concerts.
When we posted something when we were over there that said we just hit paranormal gold and never expected it. It was that because we were just out in a cemetery, in a famine cemetery he had taken us to, and just talking. And he says, "Do you know anything about the fill in the blank?" And I said, "Yeah." And he starts talking. I said, "Gwen, get in front of me," because she has the camera. Insane. Never in a million years would I have expected what happened to happen. So your buddy is going to love it. He's going to love it. I'll do him a little happy. Okay. I'm done. I'm all right.
All right. You're good.
To him. I honestly, I haven't spoken to Barry for a long time. I don't even know what he's doing anymore. But I think he's still probably on social media.
I'll have to check it out. And then when our pilot episode comes out on Amazon Prime, if that's part of it, 'cause we have 8 to 10 episodes.
Okay.
So I will just send it his way, and
yeah,
he'll get a kick.
Sure.
So we have about 10 minutes left in the show. So Brandy, what do you have on tap coming up here? Because you've done some things behind the camera. I know you spent some time kind of away from the paranormal for a little bit. You're starting to get back into it. So what's going on with you heading into the future?
Yeah, so I'm a freelance producer, so I'm pitching a number of different show concepts. Not all of them are paranormal related. A couple of my favorite ones that I've come up with are not necessarily shows that I would appear on, just concepts of mine. I'm working on something really interesting that I'm super excited about with a friend of mine who is a musician that I'm hoping will have kind of in motion by early 2020. And I'm waiting for the art for the 3rd issue of my comic book series, Dark Dispatches.
That's right. You have a comic book series.
Yeah, the artist for the 3rd one is a different artist from the first 2. His name is Jim Fern. He's done work on DC, Marvel, Disney. He's done X-Men, Superman, like all of the big things. He's incredible. So I'm really excited to see where he takes it artistically. And I will be appearing in Iowa again. I'm beginning to really love my neighbor, Iowa.
There's actually a lot going on there. It's surprising.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I'll be back down there in November 16th and 17th. I'll post more details when they come available. It'll be in Davenport, Iowa. So, yeah, hopefully a few more events will be added to the list soon. But until then, that's kind of where I'm at.
Awesome. The mention of comic books really piqued the interest of the people down in the chat room. So you want to explain a little bit more about the comic book?
Yeah, so Dark Dispatches I created and wrote. I was never really into comic books until I started doing conventions, and I got to become friends with a lot of really great graphic artists, and I decided, why not? And so it's a trilogy. The 3rd one is about to come out. It's basically X-Files meets Indiana Jones with a female lead. So I really love it. I'm working on a screenplay version of it. The screenplay is very loosely based off the comic book series. It's a little more adult oriented, but a lot of action. I used to train in mixed martial arts, so of course there's a lot of fighting sequences and stuff that I'm so excited about.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very cool. I know I kind of leafed through it a little bit when we were there at Cedar Rapids together, and it looked pretty interesting. So definitely everybody go check that out. Tim Schoen down in the chat room is all excited that he's going to be able to see you there in November at that event. I'm also going to be there, by the way, so it'll be good to see you again.
Cool.
Yeah. So and Kelly puts on some really fantastic events. She does a great job.
She's good people.
She is. She really is. So yeah, and Tim throwing down everybody that's gonna be there, so it'll be a good time. So yeah, B3 Airspace is just. Can you repeat the name again? I guess you didn't quite catch it.
For the comic.
The comic book, yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
Dark Dispatches.
Dark Dispatches.
And I'll post some stuff on my social media about it too.
Okay, yeah.
I love that. We need stuff that shows strong females.
That can kick ass.
Yes, we need more of that. I'm right there with you. Make one short and chubby, would you? Gotta represent. Okay.
That's funny. So let's see. Oh, I think that one's for me. So I'll answer that one later. So, you mentioned social media. Where can everybody find you so they can follow you on social media, find out about the conferences that you're going to be at, find out more about the comic book, all that great stuff?
So I have one Facebook page that is public. It's the only one I post to. It's Brandy Green fan page. So facebook.com/Brandy Green fan page. I'm on Instagram at Miss Brandy Green. I'm on Twitter at Miss Brandy Green. And if you go to any of those, you'll see the full list of where you can find me. I'm all over.
She's all over, everybody.
I just don't do the Snapchat.
No.
Yeah. I think Snapchat's kind of dying anyway.
That's shady stuff.
Yeah,
why do you need to send something that's going to disappear?
Right, exactly.
I downloaded it just so I could take pictures of myself with doggy ears, and I screenshot it, and then I upload it on my other social media. I don't even, because I'm with you. I'm like, oh, so that's like on the DLs what it is.
Yeah,
okay, I see how you are. I see it.
That's for sending that racy stuff.
Found chicka wow.
But speaking of events, you had just done Farrar. You were at that event for Farrar Schoolhouse in Iowa. So it's kind of why you're talking. One of the reasons why you're talking a lot about Iowa. What did you think about the Schoolhouse? Since we have a couple minutes left.
I thought it was really cool. Really great people too. Will and Jacqueline. They were great. Unfortunately for the third floor, which is where I was sort of stationed all night, nothing happened.
Okay.
Of course, in general Brandy fashion. But I mean, it's a cool place. I'd love to come back and do something else. It's definitely out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yep.
Just like Melbourne. Melbourne's out really in the middle of nowhere. I'm hoping to do Melbourne at some point, Melbourne Manor in Iowa. I don't know when, but hopefully maybe springtime 2020.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah, so you're looking to do some more investigations here?
Definitely. I would love to. I mean, I like Iowa, don't get me wrong, but I would love to sort of venture beyond, the Midwest.
Right.
Again, Southwest would be great. I've never been to New Orleans, which is crazy.
Ooh! I want to go. I went 10 times in 6 years.
Vanessa's been there a ton.
I'm your gal.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm your gal.
Okay.
You let me know when, okay?
I will.
I can tell. I can take us exactly where to stay.
Let's figure something out.
Yes. All right, go ahead and talk, Mike.
No. We have a $5 super chat from Samuel Hall that just came in. He did one of those super sticker things, which I don't. It's a little blue guy. It says, "How's it going?"
Cool.
Yeah, the stickers are a new thing, so that's pretty cool. Tim Schoen asks, "Love to see what I think of Farrar in Malvern." Well, we have here on the Haunted Road Media channel a video of a Farrar investigation, so check that out. And Robert Hanna is wondering if you're open to investigating cryptids as well.
Yeah, actually, I just recently went on vacation up to northern Minnesota to a place called Big Bog State Park. And it's up near the Indian Reservation, and they have this empty field, middle of nowhere, and they have these cutouts of a Bigfoot family.
Oh.
But up there, there's tons of stories of Bigfoot sightings. And so I had posted on my social media a little ode to one of those Finding Bigfoot shows about the peanut butter. But no, I have a friend, Ken Gerhard, who is
Ken, yeah.
Pretty well-known cryptozoologist, and I've been telling him for years, I'm like, Ken, we have to do something. Let's do something. So I'm open to it.
Cool. Very cool.
Sure.
So we're at our hour mark. So Brandy, one last time, where can people find you? And then we'll go ahead and let you go and take care of a couple admin things here.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just type in Brandy Green. You'll see my face.
All right. There we go. Brandy, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you, and we'll have to have you back again soon.
Thank you so much.
All right. You take care, and I guess we'll see you in November, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You have a great night.